I've been doing a few videos on what healthy relationships are to me from experience and what I've learned from other people's stories. And the most interesting thing I've come to realize that you can never finish talking about relationships. Like literally, there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to discover. There's always some new information you can get. There's always a new way for you guys to make your relationship healthier and better. I'm not yet married. I don't have children, but I desire to get married and to have children someday. Looking forward to that. I believe it's important for me to have some information so that I don't have to learn in the relationship, but some things I can be able to get ahead of, like knowing how to fight and to argue and to disagree with my partner. And not even my partner, at that point it will be my husband, learning how to communicate and learning how to keep the fire and the spark, going. So I believe relationships have so many things, but then again, I believe in what the word says about relationships. I'd want to love my husband the way Christ loves him. I want to look at him the way Christ looks at him. I want to understand he'll fall short sometimes, but then again, I need to be able to cultivate a heart of forgiveness and a heart of letting go of the things which have hurt me, so that I'm not always carrying burdens and carrying a lot of anger and bitterness. And I honestly want to be in a healthy relationship. I want to be in a healthy marriage. I want to be in a thriving marriage. I don't want to be in a fake marriage. We have so many things happening in our society. When you look at social media, there's so many things which are going on there. People are dating, leaving each other, getting into other relationships, leaving each other, getting into other relationships. Like we just have a lot of circus going on in the relationship world and on the social media platforms. And one of the things which has gotten me passionate about even talking about this particular topic of relationships is because I understand if we don't get the right information, if we don't know how to do it right, then we just do the same things people have been doing. And I believe all of us, we make mistakes. All of us, we are imperfect. All of us, we have to learn how to live and to tolerate each other and to coexist with each other. Having in mind that we come from, different backgrounds and how we've been brought up is probably very different. I do believe there is a way we can be mature enough to sit down, have deep conversations, understand our differences and how do we coexist together, and understand what we do when we come to the low moments of the relationship. How do we navigate, when the road is meandering? How do we get through all of these things? And I believe a lot of times when we lack to communicate effectively and we lack to be mature enough to understand that we are going to have issues. And if we don't talk about how to deal with those issues in advance, then again, we don't give ourselves a chance to know how to navigate when those issues start occurring. Your relationship should not be defined by opinions and social media. I do know you might have friends who don't like your partner. You might have family that don't like your partner. And at the end of the day, it's you who's going to live with your partner. It's not your family. And at the end of the day, you might find they don't like them because they have a preference to someone else. And sometimes it's out of selfish ambitions. And sometimes it's out of, this person is going to take from, our son. Because I've had this from so many women. This woman you have, she just wants to take your money. She doesn't love you. So a lot of times you allow so many opinions and so many voices to tell you about the person you're choosing instead of allowing the voice of God to guide you and to lead you. I believe apart from salvation, the most important decision you get to make in your life is who you're going to get married to. When you listen to people, people are not God. When you listen to people, they're only limited to what they think they know, what they've seen, what they've had. But then again, they don't know the future and what it looks like. And I think that's why we are told to consult God most of the times, because when you consult God, God is out of time. So he already sees the future and he knows who you'll need when that time comes. So you might be picking from a place of right now, it works for me. But then a few years down the line, it no longer works for you. I believe that's why we are told to use discernment and to consult God as we are picking our future spouses. Some of these things which we ignore, they eventually come back to bite us in the, So I believe it's important to not allow your relationship to be defined by social media and opinions of people around you, your friends, your family, but be sober-minded as you're picking, be sober-minded as you're making the decision. Don't listen to opinions, because remember, not all your family members want the best for you. And sometimes they might see you are with someone who can really grow with you and you can really do a lot of things together and achieve things. But for them, they don't want you to have that kind of a life. They want to still be controlling you in a way that maybe you do not know, but they want to be able to have access to you at any given time. And they think if you get someone who knows what a healthy marriage and a thriving marriage looks like, they might feel intimidated and they might feel threatened that they don't have access to you. Be careful when you're picking. Be careful who's telling you who to choose and who not to choose. Even your friends, they might see a good woman, but they'll tell you, no, go for that other woman. Because they're like, if you get a good woman, you might go further in life. If you get a woman who doesn't know who she is, then again, she might, derail you from getting to your destiny, and you might always just remain the same way. So be very careful when you're choosing and who you're listening to in terms of advice. Be very careful. Consult God. God knows the end. God knows the future, and he'll help you make the best decision. Social media, there are so many things happening. Some relationships on social media, they look so good, but the reality is vitu kwa ground ni tofauti. They're so unhealthy, they're so toxic, but online they're being put as though, this is the best thing that happened to me, but the reality is very different on ground. So be very careful about how you pick and who you listen to. Learning from my mistakes. When you're fighting, fight the problem, don't fight each other. When you're fighting, understand you're on the same team. When you're fighting, understand, yes, time will come when you'll disagree, but disagree to agree on a solution. Don't disagree to disagree with each other completely and, just tell each other to do whatever they want to do. But disagree from a place of understanding that we are fighting the problem, we are not fighting between us. And I think that's very important. Because a lot of people fight to tear each other down, to destroy each other. And I think I already talked about this, so I'm not going to go back into it. But fight the problem, don't fight each other. Always look at the problem from outside. Look at it from a place of, okay, we are here, that's the problem. How do we deal with that? I think that will save a lot of relationships. It will help you avoid a lot of unnecessary issues and dramas and other things being brought up that are so irrelevant and are just being brought up for the sake of hurting each other. So always remember you're fighting the problem and you're not fighting each other. A lot of conflict has ended a lot of relationships, and even some people have maybe ended their relationships not knowing that they were actually destined to be together because they could not find, middle ground on how to deal with the issues. I've come to realize anytime you're fighting, and if you fight frequently, you need to sit down, analyze all the fights you have and figure out what exactly it is you're fighting about. Because you'll be so surprised to come to realize that sometimes you're having a recurring problem. All the time, anytime you're fighting, the genesis of that problem is the same thing, but you never want to deal with the core issue. That's why this problem and the fights are always recurring. So getting to a place where you understand that sometimes you need to sit yourselves down and ask yourselves, why are we always fighting and what exactly are we fighting about? And dig until you find the problem, then start dealing with the problem. So also, just getting ahead of it instead of letting things slide. And this thing for letting things slide, some days you'll be like, it doesn't matter. It becomes a pattern until one day you wake up and you're like, you know what? Nothing else matters at all. And you decide to pack your things and to walk away. So also understanding that the recurring fights, sometimes there's a genesis, there's always a root. And if you don't get to the root, you might keep on fighting and never getting to the solution. So I believe it's important to also know the fighting has a genesis. Dig to find the genesis. Dig to find the root of that problem. Just having realistic expectations. Sometimes we are having this idea because of what we've seen online. And a lot of times, like I said, online is not reality. People put what they want you to think or they want you to believe, but then again, it's not always the real thing. So sometimes having unrealistic expectations. Sometimes you want a sort of a movie fairy tale because you watched a storyline and it was, oh, wow, romantic. And that's what you want. But the reality is, vitu kwa ground ni tofauti. So having realistic expectations in terms of, your partner and what they do. Sometimes one thing I came to realize, sometimes we are looking for Jesus in people and we'll never find Jesus in people. But we are called to become more Christ-like, meaning if all of us were pursuing to become who God created us to be and we are trying to run to the cross, that means we are all being conformed and being transformed to become more like Christ. So we'll have some Christ-like characters, meaning when I wrong my partner, I'm able to know this was wrong and I need to apologize for it. I don't have ego, and it goes a long way, especially in making a relationship healthy. understanding that you need to put yourself, the way Christ says, because of how he loves the church, he laid down his life, and how he loves us is very unconditional. So also applying that same grace to your partner. Lay down your life, lay down your ego and your pride. If you have a problem, have a sit down, converse, and don't allow your ego to end your relationship, or your pride and your selfishness to end your relationship, because you don't want to become vulnerable. You don't want to face the issues. You want to just ignore the issues. Don't allow that to end your relationship if there's something you can do about it. And unfortunately, some people, relationships will end because of pride and ego and selfishness. But then again, no one can be forced to change unless they're willing to change and to confront the issues which they have and to become more self-aware. So getting to a place of understanding that it's good to have realistic expectations in terms of, family, children, how the relationship works, and understanding that we all fall short, and understanding that we are probably not going to be 100 all the time. But then again, we are able to work and love each other, work with each other, love each other, and tolerate, not even tolerate, accept, embrace each other. I don't like the word tolerating, because the moment you have to tolerate someone, it means you've gotten to a place where you're tired, you're exhausted, and you're only tolerating them, and one day you'll just be done tolerating. So you're able to embrace them even at their lowest, even when they're the least, attractive in terms of the things they're doing and how they're showing up. You still love them regardless, that unconditional love. So I believe that is very important as well. I believe in learning from others who've gone ahead of you so that you don't make the same mistake. And I believe in being willing to learn, relearn, and to unlearn some of the things you think you know, and also to grow as a person and to become more self-aware, so that you are a whole person in a relationship, but you don't put pressure on your partner to complete you. There is that. So we'll keep on having these conversations. But for today, we're done with this video. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.